Hello and good day. And I think we have one person. Thank you, Miss Carlene Mother, for joining us. We have, I do believe, a couple more people we are waiting for. And let's see if they join. We'll give them another minute or two and see if they're going to join. If not, I'm going to get rolling and do my content anyway. Thank you for joining us today. Give everybody one more minute. All right, everyone. Well, we're gonna get started. No people signed up, but hey, I like to get things going and move things along. But welcome everyone to our free lunch and learn. Everyone communicates, few connect. This is one of our topics that we hold for everyone in reference to our lunch and learns. I am a certified John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. And so I have the certification to use his content around many topics around leadership. And so he has this book called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And today we're going to be covering that topic as it relates to this lunch alert. So hopefully you all came and this topic was something that you wanted to learn about or increase your communication about. And so feel free if you all want to pop that in the chat for those that are watching us live. And I know we're going to have some people that's going to watch this recording also, the ones that couldn't make it. But if you could just tell us your name, if you're representing a company, and then one thing you want to learn about communication. All right. One thing you want to learn about communication. And if you all don't know that much about John Maxwell, he has written a number of books around leadership and also management, helped a number of um, uh, top leaders. Also has helped people to start their own training business. He helps out a lot of world leaders around the world to do a lot of leadership training and management training, and also pastors that lead churches. And so, just a little bit about me. I'm not going to go over this slide too much, but I spent a number of years in commercial banking, helping out small business owners to find funding and also grow their business. I do have my own consulting business, helping small businesses with management consulting and training, and help them to grow their business. And also love the work with teams, love to work with business owners that are looking to upskill their team or are taking on a journey where they need to be a leader versus just a boss, right? Um, and spent a number of years teaching business owners, teaching on college campuses, And I just love just teaching, training, facilitating, and helping people around leadership. And so it is a great video from Dr. John Maxwell that we're going to share and play for y'all.
I would like to talk to you today on the subject, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. This is off of my book that has just been released, and you have your outlines. And I want to, before I start teaching, kind of give you just the overview of the book. Basically, the book is divided in two sections, connecting principles and connecting practices. And we're going to talk about both of those today. Let's start with, of course, connecting principles. Number one, connecting increases your influence in every situation. For the foundation of the teaching today, I want to make sure that we really have a grasp of why connecting with people is so vital. So if you go to the very first sentence in your note, the number one criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is an ability to communicate effectively. That I do believe. I think the ability to connect and communicate is the number one criteria for success with your family, with your marriage, with your children, with your friends, in the workplace, the marketplace, in the community. If you have the ability to connect with people, if you can communicate and connect, not just communicate, it takes you and literally gives you and I a decided edge over others in the advancement of what we're trying to accomplish. For example, in your notes, presidential historian Robert Dallek says that successful presidents exhibit 5 skills and qualities that enable them to achieve things that others don't. So he's talking about leaders and presidents and people. What makes some achieve better than others? Here's the 5 things they do well. Number 1 is vision. Number 2, pragmatism. Number 3, consensus building. The ability to put together a team and get consensus. Number 4, charisma. Number 5, trustworthiness. Being a trustworthy kind of a person. Now, what is interesting about these five things that set the better presidents apart from maybe the average ones, 4 of the 5 deal with connecting. Vision is definitely a connecting skill, the ability to cast a future vision. Consensus building, getting people to work together. You have to be able to connect to do that. Charisma, of course, that's why people follow the quote, the Pied Piper, and trustworthy. 4 of the 5 of the skills needed to be successful as a leader had a lot to do with connecting. So let me define connecting, because that's what this book is all about. Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that it increases our influence with them. In other words, we can identify with them until they say, he or she understands exactly what I know and what I'm going through, and we can relate with them until because of that ability, we begin to increase our influence with them. And of course, what do I teach about leadership? Very simple. Leadership is influence.
All right. Great talk by John Maxwell, right? Leadership is all about influence, right? And he talked about many things in that communication short video about relating to people. And he talked about pragmatism, and he referenced that pragmatism is all about relating to people, also being realistic and having facts. And John Maxwell talks about leadership is all about influence, and how do we influence people to get the best out of them to achieve organizational goals. And so, as he said before, if he had to tell anyone what's the number one thing to be successful, number one skill, he would say learn about communication. All right. And so the thing you want to think about is about what is communication, right? Communication is when 2 or more parties, right? They communicate, right? It's either they communicate verbally, non-verbally, and the goal is to really increase the influence, right, in every situation. So if I was a leader, if I was a person that was trying to communicate with someone, The goal is to influence that person based on how I communicate. And many times with communication, people communicate differently. We'll talk about that also. And so the number one criteria in Harvard Business Review said that communication is the number one criteria for advancement and promotion in the corporate world, or it's the ability to communicate. And how do we effectively communicate? And I ask people, you might want to ask people you talk to or you interact with, what is the best form of communication that that you use? All right, what's the best form of communication that you use, or how do you want to be communicated to? Especially nowadays, we have many forms of communication, right? Many tools to communicate. We could text people, through social software. We can email people. We can call individuals, um, by telephone, and then also we could non-verbally communicate. And many times we're doing a lot of non-verbal communication with people. And so we did an ask. I tell people, ask people, what is the best form of communication to communicate with you, right? Some people don't like to communicate a lot anymore by telephone. They like to do email or text messages, or the biggest thing now is people communicate through social media apps, and that's the only way that they follow up with you or follow back up with you. And so a lot of times, especially in business, I usually ask people, what's the best way to communicate with you? Is it text? Is it telephone? Is it email? Um, because that will help you and the other person or the parties to effectively communicate and use that mode of communication tool, to help them out. And especially, um, there's sometimes we use technology and the technology doesn't work. So you really want to think about that and communicate with people. And so John Maxwell talked about a couple of these things. I'm not going to go over all of them, but vision, right? Leaders that communicate, they can, and skills of presidents, they have a vision. They can see into the future something better and greater for where something or where they are now, right? Seen in the future, something better or greater what they see in the future. And then the communication is about consensus building. How do you communicate effectively to a group of people to build a consensus, to build a team, to build, unity? And as a leader, if you're a leader, that means that you're probably leading something, right? Leaders just don't lead themselves, but they might be leading a charge. They might be leading a group. They might have tasks with a leadership task, and they say, "Hey, I need you to go and gather these people together and accomplish this task." And so you need people as a team, just like I look at sports teams all the time, and as a team, sports teams have to work together to accomplish a goal. Unless you're in a sport where it might be like tennis and you're playing against someone, but they also have coaches and teams that help them. And leadership is about charisma, right? What does that leader that is very charismatic, what is something about them, right? Just think of a leader that you might have seen currently or in the past that has charisma. Like we just celebrated this month on Martin Luther King Jr. A lot of charisma, a lot of effective ways of building consensus with people, a lot of vision, talking about how the world will look when people are respected. All people are respected, right? A vision. And then he had this people trusted him, right? They trusted him to actually, take a cause, or people will listen to him to go out and march. And so, trustworthiness is a huge thing about a leader, right? Especially when you're communicating with people. You're asking people to do something, and if people trust you, then they will actually act upon what you're asking them to do. I mean, it is a sad thing. I look at it since I was in armed forces, is that just imagine you had a general go to hundreds of troops and asked troops to go into war, but the troops didn't trust that general, and they said, no, we're not doing it, right? Because there wasn't no trust built with that group of people, even though you gave them a command, but they didn't trust what you were saying. So trustworthiness is important. So, and the ability to identify and communicate with people is very important, right? When you can communicate effectively with someone else, it will increase that relationship. It will increase the influence that you have with somebody else, and it actually will usually help you develop a better relationship with someone, right? And so um, it has a lot of times it should be thoughtful, right? How can I effectively? I just did this a couple of weeks ago when I was trying to effectively communicate with a group of people in our team. I said, what can I do to show them that I am trying to communicate with them effectively because I need them to accomplish tasks so we can reach some business goals here. And then what do you do? When people have different beliefs and different values than you, and you need to communicate with them. Some people are very uncomfortable about this one, right? What do I do when I don't agree with that other person's beliefs, their religious beliefs, their values, and yeah, but how can you respect them, right? And so we need to respect people, no matter who they are. And so, um, and it's all about other people. How do you connect with somebody else, right? How do you get them to understand what you're trying to say, but also allow them to be a part of the conversation? Have you ever been in a part of a conversation where the other person talked and you just listened? And you didn't have a chance to connect. You didn't have a chance to communicate with them. It was a one-way communication type of thing. Like, you weren't connecting. They were giving information. You just like, all right, thanks for the information. Communication is about how do you communicate together so you could build a valuable relationship. So this graph, talks about looking at the effort and teamwork, and what it explains, kind of like that blue line looks at that individual effort, how we're just like it goes up, stays in a straight line. And so if you were doing individual effort by yourself and you had a team of people, you would just stay at that straight line. But if you got a team together, you all communicated effectively, the more productive you can be with a team, and the more effectively you communicate with that team, you can actually grow further. And that's what that red line is showing. Like, hey, when that teamwork is working together, the growth is and projection is much greater. So if you have a team of 10 people and 8 of those people are communicating effectively and 2 of the people are not, you only get 80% of, of effectiveness from that team. But if all 10 people communicate, all 10 people work together, you're going to get 100% effectiveness and growth from that team. All right. So, and as a connector, got to realize, right? How do we take that and grow that team? How do we get everyone on the same page? How do we extract from people the greatness in them? And it's really a lot about communication, right? Asking people a question: how can I help you? Right? What do you need from me? Or you see somebody's body language where they just shaking their head. They're not saying anything, and they just shaking their head. They're not agreeing with what you're saying. And you might want to ask them, so tell me how you're feeling, versus you saying, I know how you feel. Ask the person, get them involved in the conversation so you can actually develop synergy and develop a high growth team. So connecting is more a skill than natural talent, right? So I know there's some people that they just connect with people, but a person like me, I had to learn how to effectively communicate with people. I had to take trainings, I had to take classes to really learn how do I effectively communicate with someone when I'm also struggling with my communication. So I really had to learn that. I actually had a communication coach also to help me effectively communicate with people. So all great speakers, John Maxwell said, right? All great speakers were bad speakers at first, and that means that they all had to work on a skill. No one was born a great speaker. People had to learn to effectively communicate with people. All right. So here's 5 factors about connecting. So you might want to jot this down, right? So about relationships. So about insight, having an insight, like, when I usually, or I was talking to someone earlier today, they asked me to do like a, not a presentation, but have a meeting with a couple of people, and I want to have insight. Who's the audience that we're going to be talking to, right? Who's the audience that is going to be there or be on a webinar, so I could have insight of what I really need to talk about. That is like connecting, knowing who your audience is, who's going to be in the room. It's just going to help you to be more effective. And then looking at the success of what do I want to communicate, and what will make this a successful communication, right? And then looking at that the ability that you have, and then sacrifice is a huge one. People say, why sacrifice? Sacrifice means that you're giving up something to connect with that person, right? Maybe it's a story, maybe it's something else, right? But you're giving up something of yourself so you could connect with other people. So that's the 5 factors of connecting. All right. So Maxwell Prize says they made no single thing more important in our efforts to achieve meaningful work and fulfilling relationships, to learn how to practice the art of communication. Right? How do we practice it? How do we bring people into a conversation? Right? I tell people I love to facilitate conversation, because I like to bring people into the conversation and get them involved versus just me being involved with the communication. I want to bring other people in, right? And so it's an art. It's something that you think about. It's something that you learn, and you want to think about those that you've seen communicated effectively. And so leadership's all about influencing people. It's not about impressing people, right? It's all about influencing people, not about impressing people. And it's all about connecting. How do I connect with someone? I mean, I was at a meeting yesterday, and it's the first time this person I met in person, but we connected, right? And it was art. In the beginning, I was talking too much, and then I said to myself, I need to connect more. And then I started asking that person questions and let them talk and let them have some time. And so it's like an art, and you have to be mindful. If you're trying to connect, then you have to sacrifice some time, right? And then you have to allow them to speak, right? And that's the art of connecting. And so, if you look at this picture, some people look at it and they say we see a stand, right, or a vase. Some people look at it and they say, "Oh, I might see 2 people looking at each other." And communication is like that. You might say something to someone, but they might receive it a different way. All right, you might say something to someone, but they might receive it or hear it a different way. And that is why communication should be important in the art, because you should communicate to someone, but then say, what do you think? How did you receive it? Or what did you think about what I said? Because, and I've been in conversations like that before, and I said to people, can you say that again? Because I didn't fully grasp it. Or I might ask, so is this what you're saying to me? Because I might not have fully understand what they were saying. All right. Or they were communicating some non-verbally, but that's not what their body language was saying, what they wanted to communicate. So you have to think about that. Just because you talk to somebody, just because you gave them some communication, it signals that they receive might be totally different from what you're giving off. All right, especially when you're writing stuff in emails, if people are reading information, if you capitalize in words, bolding words, it could be very interesting, right? So we got to reach common ground, and how do we get to a place where everyone is respected, no matter what their values and their beliefs are, and then how can we respect everyone? So what's the takeaway? The takeaway today is we're all working on communication, right? And hopefully you have a takeaway that you're going to take away from being a part of this lunch and learn, and the people that's watching the recording. And we want to thank you for being a part of our lunch and learn. We ask that, hey, if you would like for us, myself, to come and do a lunch and learn for your group, come and do a lunch and learn for your organization, get in contact with me. This is what I love to do. I love to facilitate conversations around leadership, around communication, and we look forward to you all to connecting. So go connect on our social media, go connect on our Facebook page, and let us follow up with you. Go to Kanston.com, fill out a contact form, and we would love to connect with you all and take it to the next level. So we thank you all very much for being a part of